Welcome back to the Knife Box channel, everyone. So let's talk about a Shiro today. Let's talk about this good old faithful Shiro F95 that's been with me for quite a few years. I really adore this knife. I'm very fond of it, spoiler alert, and we're gonna take a look at it and do a walk around and just talk about this lovely knife. This, my friends, is what I think is Shirogorov's kind of prime model. Shirogorov, back in the earlier days of my collecting, was kind of the brand that was known as like the Chris Reeve of the flipper world. They're not cheap, but they are Russian made and they're very classy, and they come with this really cool excuse me, a bit of milling, and you get this really old school, this is kind of the older school certificate of authenticity. And the way that they used to do their designation would be 1, 2, or 3 bears, which would tell you if it's got single row bearings or multi-row bearings, if it's got internal milling, and you know, the 3 bears would be the ones that have all the options. As you can see, this one's a January 2018 model. This is the bronze Monkey's Edge Shirogorov F95 Frag pattern. Really nice knife, just a really awesome everyday carry companion. This is the knife that I've always said to myself is just an absolute perfect size knife for me. It's a bit large for some people. The blade is about, you know, close to 4 inches, but that is kind of what I think is a real knife, and that is kind of what fits in my hand, just in the right way. So when I first decided to take off in my whole escapade in Shirogorov and Russian knives, this was kind of like the holy grail at the time that I never thought I would obtain. Eventually I got this one, and I was really excited to get it, and because out of all the F95 patterns, there's a lot of different variations of it, and the frag pattern version was always my favorite. And it's not really hard to see why. The frag pattern just kind of flows beautifully with all the nice round linings. It's a nice contrast to the whole thing, and just really has a nice contrast in the light. Now, they made this knife in 2 variances. They made it in the bronze and they made it in the blue, which also looks really cool. The blade steel on this one is M390, and yeah, it's just a really nice blade. Now, this is kind of the last of the old. After this, they started running into the NLs and doing all kinds of different other stuff, and I really like the direction that they went. Full back spacers, things of that nature. Blade tips that extend so far past that the back spacer has to be extended, like on the Shirogorov Neon Zero, which I'll do a video on. But yeah, this to me was just the classic king of them all, just the absolute beauty of them all. Now, the F3 is kind of the other hallmark Shirogorov. The difference between the two, they do actually have slight variances in overall lengths and blades and such. The specs are a bit different. I know a lot of people say they're identical. They are not, but they're very close. And this one, being that it's the F95, means that it's a titanium frame lock version. The F3 is going to be carbon fiber on both sides, and it's going to include more of a liner lock. This frame lock is just really awesome with the frag pattern all over it. And then of course you got this nice cool milled clip, which is also considered one of the old school upgrades. Just to kind of highlight, if I wish I could. Oh man, I'm not gonna have enough light, but you're gonna kind of see in there. Look at all that beautiful milling in there. Really well executed. And I love how Shirogorov always does these little Easter egg hunts. Like if you have the multi-row bearing system, there's a little area milled inside the handle that says MRBS. The blade steel is always just nice and tucked away conveniently somewhere. It's just really nice how they do things. You can see the centering's dead on. And being that this is one of the older ones, they did a titanium barrel backspacer that's been milled out and bronzed in the center, which is a nice touch. And you can see, despite the clip being kind of flat and milled, you can see the amount of space you actually have is pretty generous for the pocket. The relief cut, that's kind of just one of those bonuses. I think the best of the best do it this way. The relief cut is done on the inside, and it's just got a bunch of heavy pocketing on the other side as well. You got some reliefing right here to give you access to the lock bar, and you also have a bit of an extension to it as well. Here's the Shirogorov logo. That's pretty much all you're gonna see on the rest of this knife. Nice and sterile. Here's your M390 blade nomenclature on that beautiful, outstanding blade. I just love how crisp they get their sharpening choil. Their plunge grinds are just exquisite. And it definitely has that Russian signature look of that really pointy draw point. Yeah, that's just kind of one of the things that they do. The hardware is proprietary, but you can buy the tool to take these apart. This one features the multi-row bearing system, which is absolutely outstanding. Just gives it beautiful action. This one from 2018 has never been taken apart or serviced, and it runs like a dream. I do use it. Unfortunately, a zip tie did win a little bit of a battle with it. You can see right there, a little edge roll. Easy fix, but otherwise, she's absolutely perfect. Another cool thing that Shiro does is kind of mill this out right here to give you additional access for your finger to kind of drop into with the flipper tab. The flipper tab is not overly sharp. It's very comfortable. Same thing with the jimping. Just a really nicely designed cutting tool and kind of a bit of a cutlery piece of art. I'm just a huge fan of this company and huge fan of this knife and this model, and I'll definitely be getting more in the future. So that's gonna do it for that. Let's do some size comparisons. I'm gonna bring out some knives that I just got back recently, just to do a little teaser. Here is my chopper from Red Horse Knife Works, guys. It's finally back. Oh my goodness. And we also did a matching my Hellraisers back to my Midtech Hellraiser. So there you have it. There's some size comparison right there. Something maybe a little bit more familiar to you guys. Let's bring out the Chris Reeve Sabenza. You probably heard my heater kick on. Sorry guys, it's a cool night tonight. And there is your size comparison. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the specs here on our way out here. The overall length is, the cutting edge is the blade stock thickness is, the handle thickness is, and the closed length is. And that should wrap it up for that. As I mentioned, M390 blade steel. M390, if you're not familiar with it, I would be very shocked and surprised, even if you were new at the knife stuff. But M390 is a very high performance, used to be classified as a high performance surgical steel, but it is made by bowlers, and it's got the heat treat capability of somewhere in the 62 HRC range to max performance, and on the low end about 58, which is where you're going to find the majority of these M390 knives nowadays. Maybe that's kind of a bold statement, but a lot of them. So just because it says M390 doesn't mean it's going to be a cutter forever, is all I'm saying. Another thing too, as I'd mentioned, this M390 here took a roll with a plastic zip tie from a child's toy. I've been told that with this sort of M390 from Shirogorov, it's actually good to give it about 2 edges before you get to the good heat treated steel. So kind of seems to be true if that's the case, but overall I've just adored this knife over the years, and I highly recommend one if you decide to get one. So anyways, that'll do it for the Shirogorov F95. I hope you guys all have a good one. Bye now.